Welcome everybody to Uppsala Pride. My name is Yolanda Bohm Ramirez and I will be your host for today or tonight or for whenever you're looking at this in the future. This year's Pride program is a bit different. It's a series of short curated testimonials and beautiful stage art, and we hope that it gives some hope in the darkness that we're living in right now. It differs, from the Pride festivals that we used to. There's no like Pride Park, no drag shows, and no colorful Pride parade. And I guess you all know the reason for it. So we're living in like a pandemic, and we're trying to do the best of it and gather ourselves, and through the digital means and through the physical means that we're able to try to collect ourselves in this human unity that we're able to be. And you probably all know the reason why we're doing this digitally. So there's like this pandemic and this virus walking around the world, and we're all basically in the same situation now, with no regards to where we are. So we try to gather ourselves in the few physical opportunities that we have, but mostly now digitally, so we can be together and be unified as the community that we are. And the LGBTQI plus community is without borders. It doesn't matter if it's the borders of the world or the borders dividing us as peoples between each other. We have lots more in common than we have differences between us, and that's what we're here to celebrate today. So a huge welcome to Pride Uppsala 2021, and yeah, let me read a poem for you. Och nu, ljug mig rakt i ansiktet, säg att du ser vad jag vill se. Jag älskar lögner och du bara osar osanning. För hur ska jag annars förhålla mig till någon som vill ha den här kroppen, det här skalet, det här höljet, den här lögnen. En samling subatomära partiklar, inte ens beståndsdelar, en halvklar skulptur som suktar efter skalpellslick. Så mycket har gått vilse på min kropp, så dra tusch över min hud som skattkartor, som stjärnkartor, och låt knivarna gå i pennornas fotspår, uträtta stordåd som brödsmulor som min borttappade barnkropp kan hitta hem igen. Förlåt. Jag hade också fel om mig när jag var liten, förlåt, men jag var ful som stryk, som en hel jävla ankdamm. Jag växte upp till en snygg främling. Jag växte upp som historieförfalskning. Det är så lätt att veta vad som är fel, men så svårt att veta vad som är rätt. Och så svårt att veta vad som är rätt, men så lätt att veta vad som är fel. Jag vill att ni ska kisa när ni ser mig mellan fingrarna. Jag vill att de ska ta ett fast grepp på min nacke, bara trycka till. De ska trycka sina läppar mot mina, trycka in sin ande i mig, andas ut inspiration, blåsa ur min kropp som ett ägg, lämna bara skal och skelett kvar. Krossa skelettet under en sten, behandla skalet som om det vore som det verkligen vore dags att återuppstå, som att det är dags att måla hela världen med läppstift, ögonskugga, kajal, glitter, för de ser att det här ansiktet bara är smink och lögn. Men jag slåss varje dag för min rätt att finnas. Det här är en krigsmålning. De ser att min kropp är byggd på självhat och plastik. Visst, min kropp är exploderande plastik. Mina tankar är terrordåd. Min hud kostym är en molotov cocktailklänning. Jag är urverk i parlamentsbomber. Jag är en cyborg. Tekniken har gett mig kontroll över den jag är. Tekniken har gett mig kontroll X och kontroll V. Tekniken har klippt och klistrat mig till ett collage. Gör ett monster. Så många människor har satt samman. Den här kroppen gör mer monster än Dr. Frankensteins. Ingen lögn och splitting som Mr. Hyde. Jag är snart inte ens längre missnöjd, för jag har en hel klädkollektion med trycket på. Ursäkta röran, men jag bygger faktiskt om. Gudarna byggde våra kroppar av majs och lerande till sin liv. Jag sa, varsågod, du får våld och du får leva, du får ångest, du får leka, men just den här kroppen är bara din att rå över, inte deras. Så vissa använder sin kropp som ett canvas, en plats att skriva, teckna och hylla andra. Min kropp är ett marmorblock, jag skapar mig själv i min egen avbild. Så ge mig hammare och kniv, så ska jag hylla mig själv genom att slå mig fri. And now we're moving on to the second part of our actual program. I'm just the stuff that's in between. I'm your host. We have the Amsterdam Rainbow Dress that's coming. It's a bold statement against state-sponsored homophobia. It consists of the flags of all the countries in the world where homosexuality is illegal, and that's an astounding number of 76 flags, actually. So it's not neither a small oppression or a small feat or work of art. It's 16 meters in diameter. So to represent it, we have Arnaud van Krimpe, and we have Purity Page, who's modeling the dress, and afterwards will tell us her life story. Welcome up on stage.
They try to do not get the emergency exits in the camera.
Yeah.
Okay, nice. Welcome, Arnold van Krimpen. You're from Amsterdam, and
Yes.
you're also from the Rainbow Dress Foundation.
Correct.
Correct, and you're one of 4 artists who made this incredible piece of art, this dress. Right.
That's also correct.
That's
yeah.
also correct. And where did you get this idea from?
Well, this piece of art, this Amsterdam Rainbow Dress, was created in 2016. And in 2016, we had Euro Pride in Amsterdam. Every 2 years, there's a World Pride somewhere. Last August, it was in Copenhagen, for example, and Malmö. And there's also every 2 years, there's a Euro Pride. And in 2016, we had a Euro Pride in Amsterdam. And at the start of that event, a 10-day event, there was a Pride Walk. And in the Pride Walk, which is a parade, flags of all the countries that criminalize LGBTIQ plus people were carried along the parade. After the parade, I got this phone call. I was doing another event during these 10 days, and they asked me, do you have an idea what to do with the flags? It's ugly countries, we don't want the flags. Do you have an idea what you can do with the flags? So I called a few friends, other artists, and with a group of 4, actually in 10 minutes we made up this idea to make it into a dress. And we made a photo shoot with it. I also work at the Rijksmuseum in Amsterdam, which is the Dutch National Museum. And in front of the most famous artwork in the Netherlands, Night Watch by Rembrandt, we photographed this dress. And when we had that picture, it all went viral. And from there, it was all...
And as you say, the flags represent countries that has made homosexuality
illegal.
illegal. Sorry,
Yes.
of course, illegal. But as I can see, there are a few rainbow flags as well. How come?
That is the idea of this artwork. It's a living piece of art. It's made out of flags of all the countries that criminalize LGBTIQ plus people. But as soon as they decriminalize, so they change their legislation in a positive way, that is, of course, we take out that country's flag and replace it with a rainbow flag. So the idea is, that's why it's called the Amsterdam Rainbow Dress, that rather sooner than later it will be one big rainbow. And the part Amsterdam is because of the bodies of the dress is made of 4 city flags of Amsterdam. And the idea behind that was that for ages Amsterdam has been open and receptive to refugees coming in. So in the 17th century, and it was always about money, of course, but we were open to refugees. And the thing is that we really wanted to make people of Amsterdam aware that people coming from these countries, LGBTQI people, refugees, need to find a place to stay. So Amsterdam should be open. And that is, of course, not only a story for Amsterdam. That is a story that is should be told worldwide, and that is what we do.
So
that's why we're here.
Yeah, you're here in Stockholm. Sorry, you're here in Uppsala at Uppsala Pride now. But do you travel with it now?
Yes.
Yeah, and what will be your next place to visit?
The next place to visit, well, we travel a lot, although in the past 1.5 years we didn't travel at all, of course. We were last month in Copenhagen and Malmö. Now we're here, and for the rest of the year, for sure, in December we will go to Canada, but we might also go to Mozambique, to Peru, to Taiwan. There's a lot on the list that we will be doing in the near future.
And will you be visiting the countries that you have the flags here?
We have not done that yet. We work closely together with the Dutch Ministry of Foreign Affairs, and we speak to them, and they connect us mostly to local LGBTIQ communities and organizations. So we speak to the local people and communities, and we'll discuss with them. For example, we were invited by a certain party in Sri Lanka a few years ago, but then we got this message from the community itself that they would rather not have us there because they were doing their work, and it was on the brink of turning good, and they were afraid that if we would come there and show off this well, quite statement, that it might hurt their work.
Their
So
cause.
up till now we haven't done, and of course we work with models, with local models. Wherever we go, we work with local models for the photographs we take. And if it has a backlash, for example, for a model, we should not go there, of course.
And today it's Purity Page wearing the beautiful dress. And how do you select your different models when you go around the world?
Well, what we try is wherever we go to work with community-based models, photographers, makeup artists. So it's very much a community project. So, well, as I said, we'll get in touch with the local community, and we start asking around. So we start with nothing, and then we start asking around. And what we hope for is to find a model or a photographer that is also, well, is a sort of an activist, because it's quite an activist story that we have to tell. And we need people that are vocal to tell that story.
That can do it with passion and
Yeah,
authenticity.
right. And for us, we are, it's an activist story, but we do it through art. So we rather call it artivism instead of activism. But we need the activist to tell the story as well.
A voice.
A voice, right.
And this will be a very interesting journey to follow, to see how the rainbow flags hopefully will add to the dress. How can we follow it from wherever we are?
Well, you can follow us through our website, of course, amsterdamrainbowdress.com, or follow us through Facebook. And we travel, so wherever we go, that's maybe it's nice to tell that what we do as a second line in our storytelling. We have this artwork that we show, but everywhere we go, as I said, we take photographs on iconic locations, mostly connected to our story. And these photographs, there are 15 now, I think, worldwide taken. Go and see them on our website and share them. Share them. We need voices. We need people to share this story. This is a story about countries, 71 still, which is a third of the countries in the world that criminalize LGBTIQ plus people. And that story needs to be told, because if you know it, it starts working in your head, and people feel the urge to change it, and that's what we need, of course.
So help spread the word and
help
spread the
spread the
pictures.
word, spread our pictures. It's
important.
use them. Yeah.
Thank you so much for bringing this beautiful piece of art to Uppsala Pride.
Thank you very much for having us. And of course, I can tell about this project and how it came about, but of course the real story of what a dress like this means is well, told by people like Purity.
And we will now get that story.
I think so.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Hello, everybody. My name is Purity Page. I'm a transgender lady from Uganda. And people always, I want to give you my testimony, but I would love to begin with the last of my presentation, because people usually always give appreciation at the end of presentations. I would love to begin with that. I would love to begin by telling Uppsala Pride team and Amsterdam Rainbow Dress Foundation that you have just performed a miracle. I am a miracle that you have performed. Nobody in the world could ever think that somebody like Purity would be standing just here amazingly representing 76 flags in the world where homosexuality is illegal. And I come from one of those countries. Isn't that a miracle? It is a huge miracle. And I'm not good at singing, but I always love singing this song that, this little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This is a light that was dimmed back in Uganda. I was born in a country where I could never even get out of my house to be who I am. I was living in tears, sheer tears, all the time. And whenever I could see people in pride, transgenders, beautifully outside there in the countries where they are legal, I could ask myself, who created these ones? What kind of food did they eat to be born in those countries? And what happened to us? It could not make sense when I could see on TV or everywhere people going about their ways, when for me I'm caged up, scared, very terrified that I might be dead, somebody will attack me, somebody will kill me, I have lived half of my life in fear. I have lived half of my life running away for my dear life until this date. This is a miracle. Half of my life that I've spent running away has paid off. It has paid off. I can't be more proud than I am today, standing in front of the world, speaking. And for me, I call it from grass to grace. I come from sheer grass. I was born of a middle-class family back in Uganda. My parents were Christians. My parents were able to take care of me. I had a very beautiful childhood. I was born in a family of 8. I'm the last born. I was born with 7 girls. And me being the last born, my parents thought I was a boy, so they named me Kenneth. My mother was tortured by my father because where I come from, our culture says if you only give birth to girls, you have not given birth at all. Because girls do not inherit properties of their parents. So my mother, reaching 7 girls, was looking for a boy, and she was frustrated, always tortured by her own culture that needed a heir. So when I was born, it was joy. I don't know, I was spoiled when I was a child, actually. All my birthdays were so beautiful, amazing. They all always looked out to having my birthdays because I was now the boy of the house. My sisters were always spoiling me. I was a miracle to my family. I would have to cut the story short, not until I discovered myself. Because when I reached puberty and I started, discovering myself, I knew there was something different about me. Every time they could say, our boy, I could not feel it. I could sometimes really hide in my mother's bedroom and I try on her dresses. Every time they could buy me clothes for men, I could cut them, maybe make them shorter, maybe make them feel like, ladies' clothes. And my family always told me, like, Purity, There you're looking like a girl. Please, man up. Be the man of the house. You are the hair. Don't try to, to dildo around and look like a woman. You are a boy. And every time I could try so much to be that boy they wanted. At some point, I even, like, as a child, I could try these big suits that I can look like a boy, but I could be like, no, I don't like this. Until it kept, like, torturing me, and then I reached puberty, and now it was pronounced out there. First of all, I didn't know that actually I was a transgender. I thought, because I come from a culture where homosexuality is unheard of, is a curse, I thought I was a curse. So I was always praying with my parents to take away the feelings because I was attracted to the other gender. And I could not tell nobody. But I remember one day I was in primary school and I asked my mother, like, Mommy, do you think I am actually a boy? She's like, of course, absolutely. I'm like, how come I don't feel it? And she was like, no, never say that to anybody. We have to pray about it. My parents prayed. I prayed. We fasted. There is no, I think I know the Bible from the Genesis to Exodus to Revelations. I know everything in the Bible. I prayed because my parents were told that being homosexuality is a curse. So in my heart, now, I'm starting to grow, and every time I pray, my feminine side keeps getting pronounced even more, even more, even more. In secondary school, they chose to take me to a boys' school. And everybody in that school literally used to call me a shemale. And every time they could have, like, drama competitions and they needed, somebody to act like a girl, they would be like, of course there is Kenneth. He looks like a girl. Of course there is Kenneth. I was always told that. Until I was actually expelled from that school because I tipped up somebody in that school. I'm like, you know what? I'm actually attracted to men. Is it strange? Like, oh my gosh, how could you say that? They reported me to the school administration, and I was thrown out of the school. And my journey now started, the joy of having that such a beautiful, because literally the school I was in, it is the school that birthed the president of Uganda. So it was a very beautiful school. My parents were very able to raise me, to take care of me, to do everything for me. When I was expelled out of school, my mother told me, we are going to pray for the last time. Put in your effort. We are going to pray for the spirit of homosexuality. And we are giving you another chance to take you to another school. If you don't change those tendencies, because you're bringing shame to our family, remember you are the hair. So go to this school, and when you get there, pray so that I don't hear those homosexuality tendencies anymore. I went to this school. I was frustrated. I didn't even pass well in high school. And I was always a brilliant student. Thankfully, I finished high school and was admitted at Makerere University. But I was a very frustrated person. Every time I could see a girl wearing their dress, I would be like, wow, I wish I was that girl. What happened to me? Every time I could see my sisters beautiful in their dresses, I would be like, I wish my sister was the one born a boy, not me, so that I can be the one in that dress. I fought myself. I almost ran mad, but because, there was this Christian part of it, I could always seek refuge to the pastors. They tell you, you're going to change, don't worry. But when I reached at the university, I discovered now it was clear. I had already passed puberty. I knew that there was nothing going to change about me? Sorry, that dress keeps pulling me. So anyways, when I went to the university, to cut the story short, I'm telling you the basic of the story. But there is a lot that happened. There is a lot of torture that happened within that cycle of mine, like my upbringing. When I went to university, that's when I met I first met a gay man. For some reason, I don't know how they discovered me, but somebody stopped me on the roadside at the university and like, are you gay? I'm like, ew. Because in my mind, I'm like, ow, this person wants to kill me or what? How do you even ask me such a question in a country where it is illegal? So I kept quiet. And to cut the story short, the person became nice to me and etc. and told me so much about them and made me meet other people, other transgender. Oh my gosh, when I met other people, you needed to see me. I met beautiful black transgender girls and I could look at them. But remember, I only met them in a house because they could not get out dressed as transgenders. So this person took me to their house and I found them in their makeup and everything. I was like, wow. In fact, I asked them, oh, so you also feel like ladies? Like, oh, please, we are ladies. I'm like, wow. Now my journey started from there. That's when I told myself, you know what, Purity? Embrace yourself. There is nothing you haven't tried. Finally, you have met your family. And I called my mom. I'm like, Mommy, the prayers failed, but I've met my family. She told me, okay, but stay there. Stay there. Anytime we see you around, or anybody from our family sees you around, we shall kill you and God will forgive us. Because we have prayed and we have just discovered that the way God punished Sodom and Gomorrah, they won't punish us for throwing you out. Never even dare coming home. I begged my parents, it all failed. In fact, they are the ones that now started hunting me down. Even calling police to look for me with a gun to kill me, my own biological parents, so they can get rid of a curse. And my mom got so tortured because definitely all the burden was now put on her by my parents because of patriarchy and because of the colonial laws that this world brought to us, and then Christianity, and then that kind of culture that puts every blame on a woman. My father was like, look at what you gave birth to. Look at what. So she was also tortured. And now, my suffering started from there. From beautiful, amazing upbringing to hopelessness to begging. Because I remember by the time my second year at the university, I had to beg from different people in the LGBT community. It is a small group to assist me finish school. Gladly I finished university. But finishing university, by the time I was done with university, I think I had gotten arrested maybe like 100 times. I was always in and out of prison, actually. And I finished university, wherever I get a job, maybe here, I had never worked anywhere for more than maybe 3-5 months, because I would get thrown out. But remember, I was in and out of jail. Then at some point, because I reached a point where I became so fierce that I never minded about whatever happens in my life anymore. I have lost my family. I don't have any source of income. I do not have nothing. And I don't come from hopelessness. I was coming from prestige because a middle-class family in Uganda is okay. They can raise you. So that's when I was like, enough is enough. I need to fight for my own dear life. There is nothing I can change. And now the suffering started. I wasn't suffering alone. I was suffering with other transgenders, LGBTQ persons in Uganda. We could get arrested. In fact, I reached a point, whenever I could get arrested in Uganda, I could tell the police officer that, please, don't torture me. Just take me to the other corner. Because I had a corner in some of the prisons, because I was a frequent visitor anyways. I could tell them, please, when you take me to prison, please don't beat me up. Take me to the other corner. I think it's better. But it's not like the normal prison. In that prison, we could get beaten up. They could sprinkle a lot of water, everything, beat you up, hoop you up, pierce you with sharp objects. Some could actually some could even put in your genitals or whatever, just for that, so that by the time you get out of prison, you're tortured enough to denounce homosexuality. Me, I reached a point where I could not feel pain on my body because I have like thousands of scars on my body. I reached a point where you could beat me up and I don't feel nothing. My body was numb. I could go to prison and even if you pierce me, I don't feel it. I was fond of blood. It was like my daily bread. Until when enough was enough. There is a time they took me to prison and then the police officer stabbed me on the forehead and I almost bled to death. And when I survived that, I had to run away to Kenya to become a refugee. Now running away to Kenya is like running away from a pan and then you go into the fire. It was worse. Now I had to go to a refugee camp in Kenya. It's not like a normal refugee camp. It's a desert somewhere. Far from civilization. There is no electricity. When I'm talking about these things, it's like a movie for some of you because it sounds like a movie. It's a place where you go and you have to construct your own shelter using sticks and grass. They just tell you there is land there. Construct what you have to stay in. And it's a desert. So you can imagine from a middle-class family to a refugee camp where I have to construct a house. Me, who had never even cooked, I didn't even know how to cook because why I come from, I was living in luxury as a child. So we had housemaids, we had chefs at home. Imagine I was just stuck there in hopelessness. And I started now begging. You people, I'm good at begging, because I begged for 5 years, begging to survive. When you have to go to hospital, you have to beg. When you have to have food, you have to beg. I don't want to tell you how many times I slept hungry. Up to now, those who know me, I'm not a food person. Because, you might think that maybe because I am now modeling this and I look so beautiful. But a part of it is that I didn't eat enough. I never had enough. And in Kenya, now you are a refugee. Even in that refugee camp, there are fellow refugees who are homophobic and transphobic. So we are always attacked by even fellow refugees. Imagine it's an open space. You have refugees from different countries, and they're also attacking you. And that's why I tell you people, this is a miracle. I know my people back in Kenya, the LGBTQ refugees, when they look at this, I think they are in tears. Because there is a lot of hopelessness. So to see Purity, whom they are with in that particular same camp, standing in front of the world, on top of everybody, it is a miracle. And this is the message I'm sending out there. Nobody should ever lose hope. We can resilient until I told myself, until my last breath, I will never give up. And to cut the story short, Sweden rescued me, and that's why I'm here. Thank you very much, Sweden, for accepting a person like Purity. And a dress like this, representing 76 countries where it is illegal to be who you are. The Amsterdam Rainbow Foundation dress. This is a huge project. It is a ray of hope. This is giving us hope. I'm representing all these countries, and I'm telling all those people, my fellow community and family out there in the world where it is illegal, that there is hope. Do not give up. We can always, life is already a battle, it's a struggle. We can always resiliently carry on. And I would love to request everybody in the world, in those countries where it is at least okay to be who you are, let's advocate for these other people also. Send there a message. Send there a message. Rescue people. See, you have performed a miracle. Purity is just down here. What about you perform another miracle? I'm now speaking to Sweden. What about you perform another miracle and bring me another transgender person from Kenya, bring me another transgender person from Uganda? What about that kind of miracle? They are watching me and they're like, wow. And for me, that would be joy if I see my family back in Kenya, the fellow LGBTQ refugees, more so those transgenders and everybody out there also being rescued, and a miracle and other miracles are performed. And I would love to believe that Pride is about offering hope. You have offered me hope. Thank you. Would we also offer somebody else hope that is like me? Pride is about extending acts of kindness. You have given me kindness. Can we send out this kindness to somebody whom the world has never given any form of kindness? That's the community. Pride is offering a ray of hope, and that's why we have these rainbow flags. Because after every storm, there is always a rainbow. And that rainbow is what we are saying. Can we extend that kind of kindness to somebody else? E.g., I would love to think, Sweden has 10 million people, but it's a very big country. I have only 250 LGBTQ refugees rotting in Akuma camp. Right now, as I speak, if you go to that page, probably you think I'm speaking, it's like a movie. Somebody has been attacked. Yesterday, their shelters were actually burnt down. Some are still nursing wounds. Probably by the time I'm speaking right now, somebody's in prison. Somebody's dying. Somebody has committed suicide. For me, these days, sometimes I go on social media and I'm just like, crying because every day there is somebody who has been killed, somebody who has been, a lesbian who has been raped, a transgender has been attacked. There is a lot of hopelessness. And if we can win together by uplifting these people, and also as a government, reach out to fellow people, politicians and etc. Let's urge these governments to just offer hope to these people. I sometimes ask myself as Purity, I see countries that accept who we are, sending a lot of money to these other countries in form of aid, and these other countries, you are sending their money, and they are doing that to humiliate and penalize and criminalize who we are. How about before you give them money, before you give them grants, you give it to them on condition that they should protect human rights? It is very important. Because these governments, literally, like me, I come from a government where I was like, I was born and found there a dictator, and he's still a dictator, and he doesn't like who we are. They are tabling a motion to kill us, and governments, that Western world governments, are still giving him money to hunt us down, to pay the police officers, to construct so many other jails to put us there. That is so unfair. And when you receive these refugees, please dignify them. We come with a lot of mental health challenges. I am still healing. I haven't healed. I am still, it's a process. When we come, offer us that kind of hope, give us hope, then send them away. I know so many LGBTQ asylum seekers, even here in Sweden, who are still struggling so much to be accepted. And they lack representation, and they are still, you can imagine, you run away and you come in a country and then you're still not accepted, you're still even struggling, and all that kind of stuff. So I would love to say that we can win, but if we have to win, we have to win together. Thank you very, very much. I'm so grateful. This far I have come, and I would love to be a good ambassador, represent this dress. I would love to, I will talk with the Amsterdam Dress Foundation that we take this message further. Some of us become ambassadors. We speak authority to these people, because I have a feeling if President Museveni now looks at this girl that he wanted to kill, he would be in awe of, wow. So she was that beautiful. I was actually, punishing a beautiful girl, and it's her loss. It's his loss, So this kind of message sends out a picture like, oh, it is possible. These people actually are amazing, brilliant, beautiful human beings that don't need to be killed. This is the message. Thank you very much, and may you be blessed.
Thank you so much for this presentation, Arno. I love how this dress can, in such a creative and inspiring way, show us one of the core tenets of Pride and why it's just such an important event to have. And also, thank you so much, Purity, for being here and for being on stage and fighting and for sharing your story. It amazes me how we can stand on the same stage and stand next to each other and continue to support each other in this fight. Thank you so much. I promised you glimpses of hope in this darkness, and Purity is but one of them. Now she, together with a panel of other driving forces, of champions, of everyday heroes, will have a panel discussion and a deep, thoughtful conversation about what we can do locally to increase the quality of life for our community here in Uppsala and in other places.
Thank you, Purity, for telling your story, and I'm sure that we are all just amazed by your strength and your determination and your wonderful, inspiring story to help others. So thank you very much for sharing that with us.
Thank you.
And now it's time for a super interesting panel of different experts and profiles within the LGBTQ+ community. My name is Sanna Balsvik, and I will be moderating this conversation. And with me, here in my living room, I have Aino Gröndal, asylum lawyer at RFSL here in Uppsala, and Tatiana Håkansson, head of corporate social responsibility for the football team Dalkurd. And you've just received an LGBTQ certify, and you will talk more about that later on. And then also with me is Olivia Novotny, Bill, and you're operating manager for the Anti-Discrimination office in Uppsala, and Purity also. Thank you all for taking the time to join us here at Uppsala Pride. Now, Purity, this morning I showed my teenage daughter the picture of the beautiful dress that you just had on, and she just thought it was super cool and beautiful. And then I told her what the different flags represented, and that they represented countries where homosexuality is illegal, in fact. And then she said, it should have been a miniskirt. And I think that was good thought for her. Yes, it should have been a miniskirt, or it shouldn't be existing at all, maybe. But could you tell us, how did it feel to wear that dress? Because it's quite a powerful symbol in it.
Thank you very much. First of all, I'm so humbled. I feel so empowered. I feel the rays of hope. You know, when there is a storm, usually when the rainbow comes, we know there is a ray of hope. And for me, when I wore that dress, I felt the empowerment that I have never felt. Imagine I come from a place of hopelessness. I come from a country where it's illegal to be transgender or to belong. And I represent people who are in distress. Some of them literally are waiting for any minute to die. Somebody's going to attack them. Maybe somebody has already attacked them for just who they are. And I used to see Pride from afar, and it was like a distant dream. For me, I was like, okay, what do those people eat to be who they are and free? What kind of, how did whoever created us create those ones so special? And then for us, we are suffering here. So I could watch Pride on TV and maybe sometimes in prison whenever I could get arrested for being transgender. And until when that dream actually became true. And here I am. And so when I wore that dress, I didn't wear it for only myself. I wore it for all those people, LGBTQ persons in those countries that criminalize who we are. And I wanted to tell them that here we are, I see you, there is hope. If purity from grass to grace, because for me, I come from grass to grace. If I can get this far, I know there is hope, and we are sending out there a message that, resiliently hang in there, and we've got you. And that's why that was power to show that there is a ray of hope. Yeah, so tell your daughter that some of us have risen from grass to grace.
Oh, I will. Thank you. I definitely will. Thanks. I know after listening to Purity's story as an asylum lawyer, what do you say after hearing that?
Well, first of all, I would say that you're a survivor, and
Yes.
Sweden is very, very lucky to have you here. It should be congratulations to Sweden, that is my feeling. But I've worked as an asylum lawyer for about 9 years now, specializing in what I would call SOGI-esque asylum claims, sexual orientation, gender identity, gender expression, and sex characteristics. And there is really a lot to say, but I would say that the absolute majority of all persons I've met or come in contact with as RFSL's asylum lawyer, we have several hundreds of people who contact us every single year, who are either in Sweden and they wish to apply for asylum, or they have applied for asylum, or they are undocumented. And I would say that most of them, maybe 90% of the persons I personally meet or represent or who just contact me as RFSL's lawyer, they have all already been subjected to persecution. It's very, very rare that they come to Sweden and they apply for asylum and nothing has yet happened. They are the survivors who make it to Sweden, usually by somehow hiring a smuggler, basically, to get them out of the countries. And obviously many of them are from East Africa, like you, and many are from the Middle East. But we also have countries bordering Europe that are now getting more and more hostile. And the stories that people testify to, what they testify to, are horrific. It's brutal. We are talking about having your own family, your biological family, in best case, just putting you out, taking distance, making someone not even your child anymore. And in worst case, we have what people describe as their families trying to cure them or punish them. It's trying to cure a sexual orientation or a gender identity that they feel is like someone is a demon. Those are the words people would use about LGBTIQ plus people. The other thing is the authorities, that in so many countries it's actually the state which is making it possible and sanctioning persecution. It can be about jail, it can even be death penalty in several countries. So again, the people that I meet, they have already been persecuted and in some cases tortured, which is very, very painful and horrific.
It just sounds medieval to me when I hear this. But, and what kind of work do you do with them? How do you help them?
Well, at RFSL, we actually, asylum is one of our prioritized areas of work. So, for example, me, I work as a lawyer, so I would be representing people who make it to Sweden, if you want to use that word. And we would represent them through the asylum process, which means that sitting with them in an asylum interview at the Swedish Migration Agency, and if we get a negative decision, we would obviously appeal it to the migration court. But in this case, we don't have to, because at least the lawyers like myself, and we are a few of us in Sweden who work specifically with these cases, we put in a lot of time preparing the person for the asylum interview. And we give legal advice. Also, when it comes to undocumented persons, people might think that it's over. They might be suicidal. They might think that there is no place for me and let me commit suicide. So we try to give them hope and strength, and also through the legal advice, we can tell them what options they have. So, yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Tatiana, as I said, Dalkurd, you got LGBTQ certified. Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you.
And can you tell us what this means and why and how is it important for a football team, a soccer team like yours?
It means a lot because we need to understand the sports history, that sports are made by men, white cis men, and for white cis men. And that means that if you are not white cis men, you will not feel included. And me and myself was a good player, and I played here in Sweden and USA. But this is so important to see that an elite club as Dalkurd can do this, go through the whole process, and to welcome other ones into football sports, and to have more including other ones that wants to play football. It's just you kicking the ball, but you cannot do it just because of your race, your everything. So I think it's a marking thing to have it, and we need to always working with our values. The certificate doesn't mean that everything is okay, now we're done. That's just the beginning, and we need to always working on it. So yeah.
What did you do to get the certificate?
Well, we did. First of all, here we are supposed to. We are playing in this big arena. There's also a LGBT certified studenternas, and to be playing there, we need to have this. So that's a start. But I said it when I started to work with Dalkurd, and I said everyone needs to do it, not just we that is working in this organization, the players. And I said, oh, the players, they don't speak, they don't understand so much. And I was like, we can translate it. What? So we had different translators always in present during the workshops we did. And everyone felt like, wow, we needed to do it. And it's really nice to see, football guys that is like, oh, now I understand how to use my language to include other people. And that's I think it's matter.
Now, Olivia, in your work, what do you do in order to just stop discrimination and to go towards a free and tolerant society without violence and the hatred? I think maybe knowledge and education, as you were speaking about, maybe that as a thing that you work with also. But could you tell us how you work and what you do?
The Uppsala Anti-Discrimination Office actually were a part of creating this certificate process and the diplomas for the football teams, which was a great experience for us as well, because we never did it in football teams before. So it was actually a privilege to be part of for us as well, because it was a new environment for us. And it was really interesting to see this, like the way that Dalkurd used intersectionality to like see different kinds of oppressions coexist in the same discussions, and to really sift through all the layers of the structures that actually can lead to discrimination. But what we do, apart from doing these diplomas processes and education and lectures, we also give free legal advice to people who have been discriminated or have questions about discrimination. So we can give free legal advice and mediate, and rarely, but sometimes we can go to court with cases as well, in order to try and change it for the individual, but also to change the structures that enable the discrimination to happen.
Can you say anything about the different types of cases that you have? What can it be about?
Yeah, the most common case that we get is either racism on the workplace, or children in school with disabilities that are discriminated by the school. So that's the most common cases that we get. But we also get cases related to LGBTQ plus issues. For example, harassment in the workplace, or transgender kids that are not acknowledged for their chosen names or pronouns. Changing rooms, gyms, private gyms, but school gyms as well. So there are a vast variety of issues that we deal with in the office.
Are there more teams with this certification, or were you the first, or is there?
There's two. We are two here in Uppsala, or
Three, I
three.
think. Yes.
Oh, that's sad, kind of. I think.
It should be all of them, but
yeah, we have a lot of football teams here in Uppsala, and three of them have this. It's
So there's some work to do there.
yes, of course.
Of course. Now I think Purity, maybe you recognized some of the stories that I know were telling, but can you tell us about your family situation, and do you have relatives in Uganda that you have contact with, or how is that for you?
Thank you for that question. When she was speaking, it was like as if she's speaking to me. Because exactly now, like for me, I was banished by my family. I was raised by a middle-class family, able to raise me and take care of me. I got a good education up to university. By the time I reached university, my parents were like, we are done with you, because my parents are Christians. They prayed and prayed and kept praying and took me to prayer meetings, and we fasted. Until when I went to university, and then my mom was like, if you cannot change that curse, because it's now like up to you, then we are getting rid of you. And I couldn't change, so they told me, now we no longer need you. And now that we have prayed for all these years, if we ever meet you, we can actually be the ones to kill you, and God will forgive us, because now you have become more of a curse. So my family has been like a center of torture for me, even before the state, and now also, of course, the state. So for me, where I come from, actually, homophobia and transphobia begins with the family, more so because of the beliefs. The religion is the biggest one. And of course, because of colonization, definitely, there is a way it packaged that hatred within the families, that they feel like, okay, these ones, we need to kill them. Because for me, where I come from, if you are killed as an LGBTQ person, everybody will say hallelujah. So everybody down there, and you can imagine when it begins with a family, then it is worse, because it's hard even to run away from the family. Yeah, so for me, my family has been like torture. Until now, I haven't like really fully healed, because you can imagine I was raised by a family, and now I have none. So it's torture, and like she says, there is a lot of mental health that needs, even when like we get resettled. For me, I'm still healing. It's still so hard for me to heal, because there are a lot that plays in my mind and in the minds of so many. And also, like she says, I have so many friends who are still even asylum seekers. They are lucky they came here. And of course, when they come here, for me, I'm lucky now I'm permanently here. I have a permanent resident. But then these ones are not even yet accepted as LGBTQ persons. So you can imagine, you suffer that, you come here, you suffer, and you don't have a family or like somebody to mentor you or to hold your hand. So it is so hard, and there is a lot of work to be done, honestly.
And what did you feel when you came to Sweden? Do you feel safe here?
Yeah, like I keep telling people, for me, it's a miracle. It's a dream come true. I still can't believe that I'm here, because this is something I dreamt about long time ago, to just be accepted and live. So for me, that day I arrived in Sweden, it was like my second heaven, free from torture. I mean, I still maybe sometimes have to pinch myself and like, oh, am I actually here? And the Swedish people have been really nice to me. Of course, there is also the other phobias in Sweden, but at least I haven't faced that. And it's joy how I was received and how I'm being mentored and loved, and I'm now building a new family here. So for me, Sweden is a distant dream that have been achieved, and I'm so grateful to Sweden for accepting me.
And I really hope that you find your new family here, so that you can feel that you have someone to hold your hand, as you said.
Yeah, absolutely.
Beautiful. I know in recent years there seem to have been questioning if someone is an LGBTQ plus person at immigration, at that process. Is that true, and how do you deal with that? What do you think about that?
Yes, unfortunately that is true. I wrote a research report for RFSL because, like I mentioned before, I've worked for 9 years as an asylum lawyer in these SOGI-esque asylum cases, or LGBTIQ plus asylum cases. And me and the few other lawyers who specialize in this field have been noticing that in the recent years it has become very, very, very difficult for people who are refugees, who have the right to asylum, who have the right to protection, to be granted protection. So when I started in 2012, around 12, I found that every single client of mine, they told me their story, which could be very similar to your story, many of them. We went to the asylum interview, they told the story, and they were given refugee status. That was it. Today, people are rejected systematically. And for me, I wanted to find out why. So I spent around 2 years or more just doing research. So I looked into over 2,000 individual decisions and court rulings from the migration agency and the migration courts. And I found that the biggest problem is the credibility assessment. So today, the migration authorities, and this is not unique for Sweden, this is happening in so many countries in Europe and even outside of Europe. But what the problem is that they tell people, we don't believe you. Of course, they don't write exactly that in the decisions, but the problem is that people aren't being believed. And in the credibility assessments, which is about the asylum seeker needing to make it credible that they are, for example, lesbian, gay, transgender, intersex, and so on. And the migration authorities has this like model with Western stereotypes, where they expect every single LGBTIQ plus person, all of us around the world, that we are supposed to have the same universal experiences. Like we have all gone through this process, inner process of shame, self-hate, feeling
like
stigmatized.
boxes.
Yes. And then they apply this model to every single person saying, I'm trans, I'm gay, I'm intersex, and so on. And it doesn't work because we don't all have the same experiences. Someone who is living in Sweden might have their experience. Someone who is living in Uganda or Iran, I mean, of course, it's ridiculous. You have to think of the culture also. So that is the biggest problem. And today, I can say that thousands of people are being denied asylum because they don't have these experiences that the migration authorities are expecting them to have. And thousands of people are being denied asylum, and they are being deported back to the persecution that they managed to escape from.
And you try to change this? You work with trying to change
Yes.
the system or the process?
Yes, we have handed over the report to the migration agency, and RFSL is having a dialogue with the migration agency, and they have promised to do better and to include also RFSL and other experts in this to try and make better credibility assessments in the future.
Okay, so there's hope.
Absolutely, there is hope, and we will not give up. So
good. Now, Tatiana, sometimes living as an LGBTQ plus person is rough on you, also in Sweden, even though we don't have the same stories maybe that you come with, but it can be rough also here. And since you've been working with these issues, do you have any advice to the listeners who may be dealing with people who are not so understanding?
Yeah, the first thing is like, I always try to talk to people that try to listen, and you cannot talk for them. They need to talk for themselves. And then the best question is like, what can I do in my position to help you? So that's always why I'm asking people, because, you know, the experience is different. And it's like, what can I help you? Okay, I need to do this and that. Okay, I will help you with that. And because I cannot do everything, right? I'm in sports, and I'm trying my best to, especially football, to have a football or a sport that people can feel that they can be themselves. And what can I do to change that with them? Because I always need to do with them. I cannot do it by myself, because then it's like guessing everything, right? So.
And if you're in let's say a football team, and you feel that I cannot be myself, or people don't understand me, or they do stuff to me that is not good, who should I talk to? Where should I go?
Yeah, and that's difficult, because then we need to have a environment that they can talk to someone about it. So for me, it's like I need to work on the ground, right? And I'm in this position that I can do it. I'm the head of the youth football, and that I can do things. So for me, it's like education, giving knowledge to the youth, to my colleagues, so we can be that person they can come to. But we need to always working on the low level and work it up.
Yeah.
So yeah,
because everyone should be able to go to the coach, I guess. Or
yes, of course, and that's my goal. That every child or youth could go to anyone in the club to talk about their feelings. Of course,
and so that they listen.
Yes.
Also. Yeah.
But also, it's, I think what you said earlier, the key is that everyone needs to be involved.
Yeah.
In order for a culture within a team or a workplace or anywhere, it needs to be like everyone needs to be in on it.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it doesn't work. And so I think what you said is the key to the entire process. To create that.
To have the leadership, and also the players and everyone
because
the same.
Because they will always be like, oh, Tatiana, you're good with this question. Can you just work with it? And I was like, no, we need to work it together. Because I'm not going to be the single one that's doing it. Because if I am the single one and I'm leaving this workplace, what's going to happen? Back to normal, right? So that's why.
And you work with the discrimination issues, and as I understand it, our current discrimination law only regards people at work or school or like in public situations. Do you face any problems with this, or can you tell us how this works?
Well, for one, it's the discrimination law is it only applies to places where there's someone in charge or responsible for. So for school, it's the teachers or the people employed at the school or the principal who are in charge. At the workplace, it's the manager or the boss. So if something happens at home or on the street, it could be other crimes. It could be crimes, it could be other kind of violations, but it's not discrimination. So for it to be discrimination, you need to have someone in charge, and it has to be in an area of society which is covered by the law. And yes, there are areas of the society that are not covered by the law either, such as the justice system or the courts, police, and that we at the Anti-Discrimination Office believe that it's a huge problem, because we know that, like Aino said, in the courts, we know that people are being discriminated. We know that police is discriminating and racial profiling, and so it's a huge problem. We try to change this structure or structural issue by putting pressure on politicians, trying to inform people about that this is the situation, also educating and doing training and workshops about the discrimination law, because usually most people don't really know what discrimination. I mean, you can feel discriminated, but it might not be discrimination per se according to the law. So you may be treated unfairly, or you've been subject to crime, but it might not be discrimination.
But if I feel that I can come to you and you can sort this out, is it the discrimination law that applies here, or is it another law or another?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
You're welcome to contact us if you have questions or if you feel discriminated. You can just contact us. It's free. And if it's outside of Uppsala County, then we can refer you to the closest one next to you. There are 18 anti-discrimination offices in Sweden today, and we're non-governmental. So you can be anonymous if you contact us, and
Good, thanks.
Can I just add something to that? I'm just thinking, because it's so important what you are saying, that I think that a big reason, I always get asked the question, why does it look the way it looks in the asylum process? And I really strongly think that there is racism in that process within the authorities, because there is an unwillingness to understand that different cultures exist, and cultures where you might come from is always going to impact which experiences you have, how you talk, what you say, what you cannot say in an asylum interview, for example. So I am very, very convinced that racism in the migration and asylum process is a huge part of why people are being wrongfully denied asylum, yet they have the legal right to protection. And this is a huge, huge problem. So, and it's something that, like you were saying, all of us, we need to work on it. But I find that it is so difficult with the migration authorities in Sweden. I mean, we as RFSL, which is also an NGO, we shouldn't have to exist. In a perfect world, we wouldn't be here. Our goal is to not exist anymore, because we are not needed. But we are far from there today, unfortunately.
And maybe to add on a little bit about that racism. E.g., like I have friends who are still in the asylum process, and I know them, they are LGBTQ. But e.g., I can give an example of a country. This one comes from Nigeria. And then the lawyer, even the lawyer that they were given, were like, it's hard to believe somebody from Nigeria. Probably maybe you are a smuggler. Probably there is a stereotype when it comes to that immigration office that comes with particular races, particular countries. And at the end of the day, it affects their mental health. Because I have this gay man from Nigeria that has been here for 5 years. But every time he's given an appointment, he's already worried, scared of what exactly the outcome will be, because he already knows that there is a stereotype of him coming from Nigeria. So definitely it's hard for him to be believed, So that racism, and then, when somebody takes like 5 years of asylum and then you're still an asylum seeker, I think it's so unfair. And then some of them are actually participative members of the LGBT community. I know them, but they're still asylum seekers. It really doesn't make sense, but like you say, racism is among those that really makes people get rejected so much.
Yeah. And I think we need to add to that, I think it's a red line with the racism in the whole society.
Yeah.
And even I'm going to say that in the LGBT plus community, we need to talk about that.
Yeah.
Because here in Sweden, as you say, culture, people think that LGBTQ plus it's just for the white people. And that means that everything that is not white, they will not believe. And that's a really big issue.
Yeah.
If we had among the LGBT community. I
Yeah.
think we need to speak that up a little bit. So yeah.
I even wanted to call, sorry to say something more.
Yeah.
I even wanted to pose a question to RFSL. Thank God I have you here. Like, e.g., we come from our countries, and then we come here. We're supposed to be empowered. Like, e.g., Purity, I have 2 degrees. But because I have that stereotype, I'm a refugee, there is nothing much that comes out of me apart from either maybe giving me a place to volunteer, which also doesn't come easily. And because the red line is you are a refugee. Secondly, probably you are black from Africa, probably you're not that brilliant enough. And so I would love to put a challenge. If you have these people, like if you have these brains, why can't you mentor them so that we can go back to our communities, even these asylum seekers, because we know them, we know their issues better than a white person who is working on their behalf. For us, we've been there. So there is that empowerment that you need to give us. And for me, I'm posing at RFSL so that you can start from there, empowering us, not just representing us. It's good also to be empowered from the bottom up.
Speak up, that's good. Really.
We had a couple of years ago after Welcome Out, the Uppsala Pride Festival, we had a group of trainees. So we had newly arrived LGBTQ plus persons in training and to inform them of their rights and the Discrimination Act. And then the point was for them later on to be informants or to inform others about their rights. So we started a process. Unfortunately, we don't have funding anymore, but this was one way of empowering and spreading the word about the law, since it's still kind of unknown. Just one example of what,
Okay.
And I can also just add that in RFSL we have something called newcomers, which is a huge group in very many parts of Sweden, and it consists, or those groups consist of people who are newly arrived, who are asylum seekers themselves, or they have been asylum seekers, or they might be undocumented, and the purpose of that group is to be like a safe meeting place, and obviously also empowering each other, because it's so important when you are in the asylum process or after it or before you enter it, to be around people who you can relate to and who might share your experiences. So we have that also for people who are interested or who might want to apply for asylum or who might be undocumented. So it's good to know.
It's amazing, and it feels good to see and hear all your passion, and that you really work with all those issues, and that you do so much good work all day long, as I can understand it. And now Uppsala Pride is slowly coming to an end. But let me just ask you one last question, all of you. If we can do something specific or concrete, or to really go forward in all these issues, like tomorrow or on Monday at least, what can we do, all of us? I mean, you work in these different organizations, which is perfectly so good. But what can we all do to try and help, or to do better in going forward? If I just ask all of you, what would you say?
Oh. Well, there are so many initiatives, but it's also a difficult question. But one thing, like Tatiana said before, work with intersectionality, work with how different oppressions coexist is one really important thing, I think, and also refer, if you experience discrimination, you can refer people to us or to the RFSL for counseling or advice. Check your privilege and check your workplace or your school or where you are, your organization, for discriminating structures, because that's how we can change this, I think.
Thank you. What do you say, Taitra?
I would say a little bit check your privilege, because just sit down and just reflect and look around and see who is in this room. And if everyone looks like you, then something needs to change, right? So, so I would say that because, take a look in the mirror. That will be an answer.
Good.
Well, personally, I'm going to keep fighting as long as I live and breathe, I think, both in individual asylum cases, but also pushing and working when it comes to the migration authorities, because we need a change. We needed it yesterday. People are being deported as we speak, back to persecution, so it has to change. So for me personally, I will continue that work, and also RFSL, but also, like you mentioned, that we need to refer people to each other. Like if I get someone who tells me they have been discriminated, I would refer them to maybe you, for example, if it's in Uppsala. And we need to create awareness and reach out to people and show them we are here, we can give free legal advice or whatever someone might need. So, yeah.
What do you say, Purity?
Yeah, I always tell my friends that if we have to win together. And having more platforms to speak out, to share and exchange ideas. Like, e.g., we've learned a lot today. We have gotten ideas. And then follow-ups. Like he says, follow-ups. And since there are so many organizations, I wish they could be a team so that all of us are reached. E.g., if somebody is working in your department and then there is a newcomers, which I haven't belonged to, but I've heard about it, then it would be easier if I go to another organization, maybe those have reached out to them, be like, okay, there is this other organization, can you actually go for this, so that it can be a partnership. And then let's always have conversations. Conversations change a lot. Yeah.
Thank you. So reflect on where you are and listen and see what's around you. Connect with you guys and work together from different perspectives to try to change. Thank you so much. Thanks for all the work that you do and for being here today. And thank you all for watching. Still have a happy Pride, and bye-bye for here.
A big thank you to everybody who has contributed and made this possible. Thank you so much to the speakers, technicians, producers, volunteers, and exactly everybody who has been involved and contributed with your expertise to make this an actual reality. You've been a key to our success in creating this program. Thank you so much. Uppsala Pride has come to an end for this year, but the struggle continues every day, every year, and I'll leave you with a small tidbit, a glimpse from the future as it may, to keep struggling, okay? Take my hand, kid. Would you believe me if I said I'm from the future? I am shipwrecked in this time, a starship on the run, shooting stars and oxygen tanks in the pursuit of happiness. I don't need sleep to fall awake. I reached terminal velocity ages ago. Now I'm a meteor shooting around curvatures, and you? You're like the worst comet the galaxy has ever seen, tethered by time, anchored in real space like an umbilical cord. You got to let go, cut loose, chop, chop, baby girl. You know, I've been keeping track of miracles since the day I was born. Through tribulations and scorn, none was forlorn, and I'm only at 2 and counting. Big Bang and cosmetic surgery, and they're basically the same thing, so that just means the second one just has to be us. Kid, here's a tip. Keep your friends close and your enemies in a stranglehold, because at worst, you're winning, and at best, you're just hugging. Trailblazers are red-listed. The first line of defense is you. Kid, I've always wanted to work on a Star Cruiser. Hop system sensei. Final stop, Hope. All passengers, please disembark. You are exactly where you need to be. Today, we will not be a cause without rebels. Tonight, we're as holy as the dirt we're made of. Tomorrow, a million suns set and a million stars rise anew. Next year, baby, we'll be done. Hey kid, you ever play that game? I can't quite remember its name. It's something with medals and eating snakes. Of course you have, kid, because I did. Passing like a girl is like hiding in plain sight. Try with all your wits and all your might. Be sure to avoid every fight. Put on loads of makeup, keep in the shadows, and keep quiet. And now, picture perfect perfection. And now, stop, or else you'll continue for the rest of your miserable lie. And you know that cliche about cliches, the one that says that there's a good reason that cliches are cliches. Oh my goddess, that's so cliche. Kid, would you believe me now if I said I'm from the future? That's no cliche, I really am. I am the ghost of versions of you yet to come. I'm a promise, so hoist your skin up high. I ain't never been a permanent resident in this body. I'm just on loan from infinity and from you with an eviction notice taped inside of my forehead. We're just roller coasting through parsecs. Our hearts are open beta test, beating like all the rest with no concept of how many ticks or talks left till death. It gets better, kid. We are the living proof of it. Thank you so much. Keep struggling and see you next year.